Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Bella Nabila with my SID number 32301112. Okay, and now I want to make a video for my midterm exam in subject interpreting. So without any further ado, I already choose the video number 1 and number 5. Okay, I want to share screen. Okay. This model consecutive.
For almost a decade, scientists chased the source of a deadly new virus through China's tallest mountains and most
Selama hampir 1 dekade, para ilmuwan melacak sumber virus yang baru yang sangat mematikan melewati pegunungan tertinggi dan gua-gua paling terkecil di Tiongkok.
isolated caverns. They finally found it here, in the bats of Shitao Cave.
Mereka akhirnya menemukan virus itu di sini, pada kekelelawar di Gua Shito.
The virus in question was a coronavirus that caused an epidemic of severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, in 2003.
Virus yang dimaksud adalah virus corona yang menyebabkan epidemi SARS or Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome atau sindrom pernafasan akut parah pada tahun 2003.
Coronaviruses are a group of viruses covered in little protein spikes that look like a crown, or corona in Latin. There are hundreds of known coronaviruses.
Virus corona adalah sekelompok virus yang diselimuti oleh duri-duri protein kecil yang tampak seperti mahkota atau dalam bahasa Latin disebut corona. Virus corona atau SARS-CoV menyebabkan penyakit SARS, MERS-CoV menyebabkan MERS, dan SARS-CoV-2 menyebabkan penyakit COVID-19.
7 of them infect humans and can cause disease. The coronavirus SARS-CoV causes SARS, MERS-CoV causes MERS, and SARS-CoV-2 causes the disease COVID-19. Of the 7 human coronaviruses, 4 cause colds, mild, highly contagious infections of the nose and
Dari
throat.
7 virus corona pada manusia, 4 di antara lainnya menyebabkan batuk pilek biasa, infeksi hidung, dan tenggorokan yang ringan namun sangat menular.
2 infect the lungs and cause much more severe illnesses.
2 lainnya menginfeksi paru-paru dan menyebabkan penyakit yang lebih parah.
The 7th, which causes COVID-19, has features of each. It spreads easily, but can severely impact the lungs.
Sementara yang nomor ke-7 yang menyebabkan virus corona COVID-19 memiliki ciri-ciri dari keduanya. Virus ini mudah menyebar, tetapi juga bisa berdampak parah pada paru-paru.
When an infected person coughs, droplets containing the virus spray out. The virus can infect a new person when the droplets enter their nose or mouth. Coronaviruses transmit best in enclosed spaces where people are close together.
Ketika orang yang terinfeksi batuk, percikan droplet yang mengandung virus akan menyembur keluar. Virus dapat menginfeksi orang
Cold
baru
weather
ketika
keeps their
droplet
delicate
tersebut
casing from
masuk ke
drying
hidung
out,
atau mulut
enabling the
mereka.
virus to survive for longer between hosts, while UV exposure from sunlight may damage it. These seasonal variations matter more for established viruses.
Virus corona menular paling baik di ruangan tertutup, di mana orang-orang saling berdekatan. Cuaca dingin menjaga selubung virus yang rapuh agar tidak mengering, sehingga virus tersebut dapat bertahan hidup lebih lama di antara inang, sedangkan paparan sinar UV dan matahari dapat merusaknya.
Because no one is yet immune to a new virus, it has so many potential hosts that it doesn't need ideal conditions to spread. In the body, the protein spikes embed in the host cells and fuse with them, enabling the virus to hijack the host.
Namun, karena belum ada orang yang kebal terhadap virus baru, virus tersebut memiliki begitu banyak calon inang, sehingga tidak memerlukan kondisi cuaca tertentu yang ideal untuk bisa menyebar.
Host cell's machinery to replicate its own genes. coronaviruses store their genes on RNA. All viruses are either RNA viruses or DNA viruses.
Di dalam tubuh, duri protein virus akan menempel dan melebur dengan sel inang, membuat virus bisa membajak sistem sel inang untuk mereplikasi gennya sendiri.
RNA viruses tend to be smaller, with fewer genes, meaning they infect many hosts and replicate quickly in those hosts. In general, RNA viruses don't have a proofreading mechanism, whereas DNA viruses do. So, when an RNA
Virus RNA cenderung berukuran lebih kecil dengan jumlah gen yang lebih sedikit. Artinya, mereka menginfeksi banyak inang dan berimplikasi dengan cepat pada inang tersebut. Dan secara umum, virus RNA ini tidak memiliki mekanisme perbaikan cetak atau biasa disebut proofreading, sedangkan virus DNA memilikinya.
virus replicates, it's much more likely to have mistakes called mutations. Many of these mutations are useless or even harmful, but some make the virus better suited for certain environments, like a new host species.
Dan secara umum virus RNA tidak memiliki mekanisme perbaikan cetak atau bisa disebut proofreading, sedangkan virus DNA memilikinya. Jadi ketika virus RNA berimplikasi, kemungkinan
Epidemics often
terbesarnya
occur when a
adalah
virus jumps
terjadi
from
kesalahan yang
animals to
disebut
humans.
mutasi menjadi
This is
jauh
true of
lebih
the
besar.
RNA viruses that cause the Ebola, Zika, and SARS epidemics, and the COVID-19
Banyak
pandemic.
dari mutasi ini yang
Once
tidak
in
berguna
humans,
atau
the
bahkan
virus still
merugikan bagi virus
mutates,
itu
usually not
tersendiri.
enough to create a new virus, but enough to create variations or strains of the original one. Coronaviruses have a few key differences from most RNA viruses.
Namun beberapa mutasi justru membuat virus ini lebih cocok dengan lingkungan tertentu, seperti berpindah ke spesies inang yang baru. Epidemi seringkali terjadi ketika virus meloncat dari hewan ke manusia.
They're some of the largest, meaning they have the most genes. That creates more
Hal ini
opportunity
terjadi
for
pada
harmful
virus RNA yang menyebabkan epidemi Ebola, Zika, SARS, dan pandemi COVID-19.
mutations. To counteract this risk, coronaviruses have a unique feature, an enzyme that checks for replication errors and corrects mistakes. This makes coronaviruses much more stable, with a slower mutation rate than other RNA viruses. While this may sound formidable, the slow mutation rate is actually
Virus corona memiliki beberapa perbedaan utama dari kebanyakan virus RNA lainnya loh. Virus corona termasuk yang berukuran paling besar, yang berarti memiliki gen yang paling banyak. Hal itu menciptakan lebih banyak peluang terjadinya mutasi yang berbahaya.
promising sign when it comes to disarming them. After an infection, our immune systems can recognize germs and destroy them more quickly if they infect us again, so they don't make us sick. But mutations can make a virus less recognizable to
Untuk
our immune
mengatasi
system.
resiko ini, virus corona memiliki fitur yang unik, sebuah enzim yang memeriksa kesalahan replikasi dan memperbaiki kesalahan tersebut. Hal ini membuat virus corona jauh lebih stabil dengan tingkat mutasi yang lebih lambat dibandingkan virus RNA yang lainnya.
And therefore more difficult to fight off. They can also make antiviral drugs and vaccines less effective because they're tailored
Meski
very
terdengar sangat
specifically to a
menakutkan, tingkat mutasi yang lambat ini sebenarnya merupakan kabar baik dalam upaya kita untuk melumpuhkan virus corona tersebut. Setelah terjadinya infeksi, sistem kekebalan tubuh kita dapat mengenali kuman dan menghancurkannya dengan lebih baik dan lebih cepat jika mereka menginfeksi kita lagi, sehingga kita tidak jatuh sakit lagi.
can make a virus
Namun,
less
mutasi dapat
recognizable to
membuat
our
virus
immune
menjadi
system
kurang
and
dikenali
therefore
oleh
more
sistem
difficult to
kekebalan
fight
tubuh
off.
kita. Dan
They can also
akibatnya
make
menjadi lebih
antiviral
sulit untuk
drugs and
dilawan.
vaccines.
Mutasi juga dapat membuat obat antivirus dan vaksin menjadi
and
kurang efektif
vaccines less
karena
effective
keduanya
because they're
dirancang
tailored
sangat
very
detail
specifically
dan
to a
spesifik untuk
virus.
virus tertentu.
That's why we need a new flu vaccine every year. The influenza virus mutates so quickly that new strains pop up constantly. The slower mutation
Itulah
rate
mengapa kita membutuhkan vaksin flu yang baru setiap tahunnya. Virus influenza bermutasi begitu cepat, sehingga varian baru bermunculan terus-menerus dan berkelanjutan.
Might be able to recognize them for longer after infection and therefore protect us
Tingkat
better.
mutasi virus corona yang
Still,
lebih baik,
we don't know how long our bodies
lebih
remain
lambat,
immune to different
berarti sistem
coronaviruses.
kekebalan tubuh,
There's never been an
obat-obatan, dan
approved
vaksin
treatment or
kita
vaccine
mungkin
for a
dapat mengendalinya
coronavirus.
dalam jangka
We
waktu
haven't
yang lebih
focused on
lama
treating
setelah
the ones that cause
terinfeksi.
colds.
Dan oleh karena
And though
itu
scientists
bisa
began developing
menyembuhkan
treatments for
lebih baik
SARS
lagi.
and MERS, the epidemics ended before those treatments completed clinical trials. As we continue to encroach on other animals' habitats, some scientists say a new
Meski
coronavirus
begitu,
jumping
kita
to
belum tahu
humans
berapa
is
lama tubuh kita
inevitable.
bisa tetap kebal
But if we
terhadap berbagai
investigate
virus
these
corona.
unknowns,
Belum
it
pernah
doesn't
ada
have to
pengobatan
be
atau vaksin yang
devastating.
disetujui untuk mengendalikan virus
Students
corona
and
tersebut.
teachers all over the world did their part to help slow the spread of COVID-19 by staying home. But what about their graduation ceremonies? Learn more about TED's global campaign to celebrate and elevate the hopes and ideas of an entire generation. Get involved at ted.com/graduation.
Kita belum berfokus pada pengobatan untuk virus corona yang menyebabkan batuk pilek yang biasa. Dan meskipun para ilmuwan mulai mengembangkan pengobatan untuk SARS dan MERS, epidemi tersebut berakhir sebelum pengobatan tersebut menyelesaikan uji klinisnya. Okay, now we're going to video 2 that I already chose video number 5. That is how to achieve your ambitious goals. Okay, without any further ado, I will share screen about the content. Sebelumnya, boleh saya minta Anda mengangkat tangan Anda? Berapa banyak dari Anda yang yakin bisa meniru gambar Brad Pitt ini? Hanya dengan sebuah pensil dan secari kertas. Hari ini saya akan memberikan dan menunjukkan caranya. Lewat cara ini, saya akan memberikan keahlian yang Anda butuhkan untuk menjadi seorang seniman kelas dunia. Dan prosesnya tidak sampai 15 detik.
By show of hands, how many of you believe you could
Tapi
replicate
sebelum
this
itu,
image
berapa
of
banyak
Brad
yang
Pitt with
Anda
just a
yakin
pencil
bisa
and piece
meniru
of
gambar
paper?
kotak abu-abu polos ini?
Well, I'm going to show you how to
Kita
do
semua pasti
this.
bisa.
And in so
Dan kalau
doing,
Anda
I'm
bisa
going
membuat
to
satu
give
kotak
you the
abu-abu,
skill
Anda juga
necessary
pasti bisa
to
membuat
become a
2, 3,
world-class
bahkan
artist.
9 kotak
And it
abu-abu.
shouldn't take more than about 15
Kenyataannya, kalau
seconds.
bisa membuat satu saja, sulit rasanya membantah kalau Anda tidak bisa membuat setiap kotak abu-abu yang dibutuhkan untuk menyusun gambar tadi secara utuh. Nah, itu dia. Saya baru saja memberikan keahlian untuk menjadi seniman kelas dunia.
But before I do that, how many of you believe you could replicate this image of a solid gray square? Every one of us. And if you can make one gray square, you can make 2, 3, 9. Truth of the matter is, if you could make just one gray square, it'd be very difficult to argue that you couldn't make every gray square necessary to replicate the image in its entirety. And there you have it.
Saya tahu
I've
apa
just
yang
given you the
dipikirkan.
skill
Itu bukan
necessary
seni
to
dan
become a
jelas tidak
world-class
bisa menjadi
artist.
seniman kelas dunia. Kalau begitu, kenalkan, ini Chuck Close. Beliau adalah salah satu seniman dengan penghasilan tertinggi di dunia. Dan
I know
selama
what you're thinking.
berdekade-dekade, dia
That's not
berkarya
real
lewat
art.
teknik yang
Certainly
sama
wouldn't make me a
persis.
world-class
Ketahuilah,
artist.
yang menghalangi kita
So let me
mencapai impian
introduce you to
terbesar
Chuck
sebenarnya bukan
Close.
soal bakat
He's
atau
one of the highest
keajaiban,
earning artists in the
melainkan
entire
bagaimana cara
world
kita
for
menghadapi
decades.
masalah dan
And he
mengambil
creates his art using this
keputusan tersebut.
exact technique.
Karena hidup ini dipenuhi oleh
You see, what
jutaan
stands between
keputusan
us and
kecil
achieving
yang terus
even our most
berakumulasi
ambitious
setiap harinya.
dreams has
Perbaikan
far less
sekecil
to do with
apapun pada
possessing some
prosesnya bisa
magical
mengubah
skill
hasil
or
akhir
talent,
secara
and
drastis.
far more to do
Saya
with
akan
how we
buktikan ini
approach
lewat
problems
perjalanan
and
karir
make
seorang
decisions to
Novak
solve them.
Djokovic. Kilas
And
balik ke
because
tahun
of the
2004.
continuous and
Saat baru mulai
compounding
debut
nature of all those
profesional, dia
millions
hanya
of
menduduki
decisions
peringkat
that we face on a regular
ke-680 dunia.
basis, even a marginal improvement in our process can have a huge impact on our end results. And I'll prove this to you by taking a look at the career of Novak Djokovic. Back in 2004, when he first became a professional tennis player, he was ranked 680th in the world. It wasn't until the end of his third year that he jumped up to
Baru di akhir tahun ketiganya, peringkatnya melonjak ke urutan ketiga di dunia. Penghasilannya naik dari $250.000 menjadi $5 juta per tahun. Itu baru hadiah turnamen saja loh. Tentu karena ia memenangkan lebih banyak pertandingan. Pada tahun 2011, ia berhasil menjadi petenis nomor 1 di dunia. Menghasilkan rata-rata $14 juta per tahun
be
murni
ranked
dari hasil
third in the
turnamen
world.
dan
He went
mendominasi
from
dengan
making
memenangkan
250,000
90%
a year to
pertandingan.
5 million a year
Menariknya, Novak
in
sama
prize
sekali
money
tidak bisa
alone, and of
mengendalikan
course he did
angka-angka
this by winning more
statistik tersebut.
matches. In
Yang bisa ia
2011, he
kendalikan
became the
hanya
number one ranked men's
keputusan-keputusan
tennis player in the
kecil.
world.
Yang harus ia ambil dengan tepat di sepanjang pertandingan demi menggeser peluang agar berpihak kepadanya. Kita bisa mengukur perkembangannya dari presentasi poin yang ia dapatkan dalam pertandingan.
And winning a dominating 90% of his matches. Now, here's what's really interesting about all of these very impressive statistics. Novak doesn't control any of them. What he does control are all the tiny little decisions that he needs to make correctly along the way in order to move the probability in
Satu
favor of
poin
him
biasanya
achieving
melibatkan
these types
1
of.
hingga 3 keputusan. Saya menyebutkan tingkat keberhasilan keputusan. Dulu, saat ia memenangkan sekitar 49% pertandingan, ia juga memenangkan sekitar 49 poin. Dan lalu, untuk melonjak ke peringkat 3 dunia, dan menghasilkan $5 juta per tahun,
What he
ia
does
hanya perlu
control are all the
meningkatkan
tiny little
keberhasilan keputusan
decisions that he
menjadi
needs to make correctly
52%.
along the way
Dan untuk
in order
menjadi
to
salah satu pemain terhebat sepanjang sejarah di peringkat 1, ia hanya perlu menaikkannya ke angka 55% saja.
him achieving these types of results. And we can quantify and track his progress in this area by taking a look at the percentage of points that he wins. Because in tennis, the typical point involves 1 to maybe 3 decisions. I like to refer to this as his decision success rate. So back when he was winning about 49% of the matches he was playing, he was winning about 49% of the points he played.
Saya terus
Then
menggunakan
to jump
kata
up,
hanya,
become number
tapi
3 in the
bukan
world
berarti
and
ini
actually
mudah
earn
ya.
$5 million.
Jelas tidak. Namun peningkatan kecil seperti ini sangat bisa dicapai oleh siapapun di ruangan ini. Mari saya tunjukkan maksudnya.
He was winning about 49% of the points he played.
Sejak TK
Then to
sampai
jump
lulus
up,
SMA
become
ya,
number 3 in the
itu
world
foto
and
kelulusan
actually
saya.
earn $5 million a year for
Kalau
swinging a
kalian
racket,
hampir semua
he had to
orang
improve his
percaya selalu
decision
tertulis seperti
success
ini.
rate to just 52%. Then to become not just number 1, but maybe one of the greatest players to ever play the game, he had to improve his decision success rate to just 55%. Now I keep using this word just. I don't want to imply this is easy to do. Clearly it's not. But the type of margin
Yang guru-guru tidak sadari adalah saya sebenarnya sangat ingin fokus, tapi memang tidak bisa saja. Jadi sejak TK sampai tahun kedua kuliah, nilai saya selalu pas-pasan, di kisaran C atau C minus. Di tahun ketiga, saya merasa sudah cukup dan harus berubah.
improvements that I'm talking about are easily achievable by every single one of us in this room. And I'll show you what I mean. From kindergarten all the way through to my high school graduation, yes, that's high school graduation for me, every one of my report cards basically said the same thing. Stephen's a very bright young boy. If only he would just settle down and focus. What they didn't realize was I wanted that even more than they wanted it for me. I just couldn't.
Saya membuat penyesuaian kecil. Saya berhenti menjadi penonton atas hidup saya sendiri dan mulai mengambil tindakan daripada berpura-pura bisa tenang dan fokus. Selama lebih dari 10 menit, saya terima kenyataan bahwa saya memang tidak bisa. Jadi, kalau mau berprestasi di kampus, saya harus mengubah cara pendekatan saya melewati penyesuaian kecil ini. Jika ada tugas membaca,
And so from kindergarten straight through the second year of college, I was a really
jika ada tugas membaca 5 bab buku, saya tidak melihatnya sebagai 5 bab, bahkan tidak sebagai 1 bab. Saya membagi jadi tugas-tugas kecil yang hanya butuh fokus selama 5 menit atau 10 menit saja.
consistent C minus student. But then going into my junior year, I'd had enough. I thought, I want to make a change. I'm going to make a marginal adjustment. And I'm going to stop being a spectator in my decision making and start becoming an active participant.
Misalnya, cukup membaca 3 atau 4 paragraf saja, habis itu selesai. Begitu waktu 10 menit habis, saya berdiri, saya main basket, menggambar, atau bermain game sebentar. Baru kembali lagi. Dan saat saya kembali, saya tidak harus melanjutkan tugas yang sama.
And so that year, instead of pretending again that I would suddenly be able to settle down and focus on things for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, I decided to assume I wouldn't. And so if
Bahkan tidak harus mata kuliah yang sama, melainkan tugas lain yang cuma butuh waktu 5 hingga 10 menit saja. Sejak menerapkan itu sampai lulus, saya selalu menjadi lulusan terbaik, masuk Dean's List, dan meraih President Honor Roll di setiap semester.
If I wanted to achieve the type of outcome that I desired, doing well in school, I was going to actually have to change my approach. And so I made a marginal adjustment. If I would get an assignment, let's say read 5 chapters in a book, I wouldn't think of it as 5 chapters. I wouldn't even think of it as
Lalu saya lanjut S2 saya di salah satu program pascasarjana keuangan dan ekonomi terbaik di dunia. Pendekatan yang sama, hasilnya sama pula. Setelah lulus dan mulai bekerja, saya sadar metode ini benar-benar berhasil. Kita bisa mengambil konsep besar atau tugas yang sangat rumit.
1 chapter. I would break it down into these tasks that I could achieve that would require me to focus for just 5 or 10 minutes at a time. So maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, that's it.
Lalu membaginya menjadi potongan kecil yang jauh lebih mudah untuk dikelola. Di sepanjang prosesnya, kita lakukan perbaikan kecil untuk memperbesar peluang suksesnya. Jadi, saya terapkan ini di dalam karir.
I would do that. When I was done with those 5 or 10 minutes, I would get up. I'd go shoot some hoops, do a little drawing, maybe play video games for a few minutes. And then I'd come back. Not necessarily to the same assignment, not even necessarily to the same subject, but just to another task that required just 5 to 10 minutes of my attention. From that point forward, all the way through to graduation,
Dan berhasil. saya memulai karir saya sebagai seorang trader produk derivatif di Credit Suisse, hingga akhirnya menjadi pimpinan global perdagangan opsi mata uang di Bank of America, lalu pimpinan global Amerika di AIG Internasional. Metode ini membantu saya memberikan profit kelas atas berbagai manajer hedge fund global selama 12 tahun, sekaligus mendirikan 2 perusahaan hedge fund yang sukses memenangkan penghargaan.
I was a straight A student. Dean's List, President's Honor Roll, every semester. I then went on to one of the top graduate programs in the world for finance and economics. Same approach, same results. So then I graduate. I start my career, and I'm thinking, this worked really well for me. You know, you take these big concepts, these complex ideas, these big assignments, you break them down to much more manageable tasks. And then along the way, you make a marginal improvement to the process. You know,
Sampai pada tahun 2001, saya berpikir ide ini terbukti sukses di dunia akademi dan karir profesional. Kenapa tidak saya terapkan lagi ya ke kehidupan pribadi, terutama untuk target-target besar saya. Jadi suatu hari saat saya jalan ke tempat kerja yang rutenya membelah Hyde Park di London, perjalanan itu memakan waktu 45 menit sekali jalan. Artinya setengah jam sehari dan 7,5 jam seminggu, dan 30 jam dalam sebulan, dan 360 jam dalam setahun. Waktu produktif yang terbuang sia-sia hanya untuk mendengarkan musik di iPod saya.
odds of success in your favor. I'm going to try and do this in my career. So I did. I started out as an exotic derivatives trader at Credit Suisse. It then led
Pulang kerja hari itu, saya mampir ke toko membeli 33 CD. Pertama, program bahasa Jerman, Pimsleur, lalu memasukkannya ke iPod. Tapi tidak sampai saat itu. Tidak sampai di situ saja, saya tahu saya ini orang yang tidak disiplin.
me to be global head of currency option trading for Bank of America, global head of emerging markets for AIG International. It helped me deliver top-tier returns as a global macro hedge fund manager for 12 years and to become founder and CIO of
Di titik tertentu, saya pasti sangat bosan untuk belajar dan kembali mendengarkan musik. Jadi saya hapus semua musik di iPod saya. Sekarang pilihan saya cuma satu, mendengarkan rekaman bahasa, dan 10 bulan kemudian saya selesai mendengarkan seluruh 90 CD program tersebut.
2 award-winning hedge funds. So it gets to 2001, and I'm thinking, this whole idea, it worked really well in school. It's been serving me well as a professional. Why aren't I applying this in my personal life? Like to all those big
Masing-masing diulang 3 kali. Saya bahkan ikut kursus intensif 16 hari di Berlin. Setelahnya, anak istri menyusul saya ke sana. Kami jalan-jalan, saya hanya mengobrol dengan warga lokal pakai bahasa Jerman yang saya bisa. Dan mereka membalas dengan bahasa Jerman yang sama. Dan anak-anak saya sampai takjub loh.
ambitious goals I have for myself. So one day I'm walking to work, and at the time my commute was a walk from one end of Hyde Park to the other in London. It took me about 45 minutes each way. Hour and a half a day, 7.5.
Mereka melongo heran. Tapi Anda dan saya tahu, tidak ada yang ajaib dari dunia ini dan hal ini. Saya cuma melakukan penyesuaian kecil pada rutinitas harian saya. Berbicara dalam bahasa Jerman.
Hours a week, 30 hours a month, 360 hours a year when I was awake, aware, basically wasting time listening to music on my iPod. So on my way home from work that day, I stopped at the store. I picked up the first 33 CDs in the Pimsleur German language program, ripped them and put them onto my iPod. But I didn't stop there. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm an undisciplined person. And I knew that at some point, I'd switch away from the language and go back to the music.
Dan sekarang saya bisa berbicara sedikit bahasa Jerman. Saat itu saya berpikir, seharusnya tidak semudah ini bagi seorang seusia saya belajar bahasa baru. Biasanya itu merupakan kemampuan anak-anak kecil. Tapi nyatanya saya bisa, hanya dengan penyesuaian kecil dari rutinitas hari-harian saya. Lalu target besar apa ya yang selama ini saya tunda sampai masa pensiun saya, yang sebenarnya bisa saya capai sekarang. Kalau saya mengubah
So I
sedikit
removed that
rutinitas,
temptation
akhirnya saya
by removing all
mulai
of the
mencoba
music.
hal baru
It left me with just
seperti
one
mendapat
option:
lisensi balap
listen to the
mobil,
language tapes.
belajar menambahkan
So 10 months later, I'd listen to all 99 CDs in the German language program. Listen to each one 3 times each. I then went to Berlin for a 16-day intensive German course. When I was done, I invited my wife and kids to meet me. We walked around the city. I spoke German to the Germans. They spoke German back to me. My kids were amazed. I mean, that couldn't close their jaws. But you and I, we know there's actually nothing amazing about what I just done. I made this marginal adjustment to my daily routine, this marginal adjustment to my process. Und jetzt, ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. And now I can speak some German. And so in that moment, I'm thinking, it's not supposed to be this easy for a guy like me.
Atau berjanji ekstrim, tidak akan makan makanan enak lagi. Tidak tahu caranya begitu jarang berhasil. Jadi saya memilih mengambil tindakan nyata. Saya melihat kebiasaan yang sudah ada, lalu berpikir, bisa tidak ya kebiasaan ini dimanfaatkan untuk mendukung goal saya? Kebetulan saya punya rutinitas jalan kaki 1,5 jam sehari selama 7 tahun terakhir ini.
An old guy to learn a new language. You're supposed to have to do that when you're a kid. And yet here I had done it, this marginal adjustment. So what other big, ambitious goals I've been holding on to, putting off until retirement, that I could potentially achieve if I just made a marginal adjustment to my routine? So I started doing them. I earned my auto racing license. I learned how to fly a helicopter, did rock climbing, skydiving, and learned how to fly planes aerobatically. Well, if you're like me,
11 kilo. Resolusi saya adalah mendaki seluruh 33 jalur pegunungan di Santa Barbara. Padahal seumur hidup saya belum pernah mendaki. Tapi poinnya bukan soal 33 jalur itu. Poinnya adalah membagi target besar menjadi keputusan-keputusan yang kecil yang mudah untuk saya kelola, yang diambil di sepanjang proses demi memperbesar peluang suksesnya. Ini bahkan bukan soal menyelesaikan satu jalur pendakian, melainkan keputusan super kecil. Misalnya, saat Anda sedang di meja kerja lalu meluangkan sedikit waktu di akhir hari, atau saat rebahan di sofa sambil memegang remote TV.
back in 2007, you might have the same goal I had. I was just moving back from London. I was about 25 pounds overweight and out of shape, and I wanted to rectify that. So I could go the typical route. You know, I could write a check to a gym I'd never go to, or I could swear to myself that I will never again eat those foods that I love but are doing all the damage. And I knew that going that route rarely results in the outcome you desire.
Atau sedang scrolling Facebook, lalu Anda memutuskan meletakkan ponsel, Anda ganti baju daki, melangkah keluar rumah, dan mengunci pintu. Anda masuk ke mobil lalu menyetir titik awal pendakian. Anda turun lalu melangkah satu demi satu. Setiap langkah yang saya sebutkan tadi adalah keputusan kecil yang harus diambil dengan tepat. Kebanyakan orang
So I decided to become an
membayangkan
active
keputusan besar
participant,
saat
and I
sudah
thought
di puncak
about the
gunung.
habits and
Padahal bukan
passions
itu
that I've
intinya.
developed over the
Kalau
course of
Anda
my
tidak
life,
mengambil
and I thought,
keputusan
can
yang
I make
tepat,
just a marginal
saat
adjustment
masih
to
di
them
atas sofa,
so
Anda
that they
tidak
work
akan
in
pernah
my
sampai ke
favor as
puncak
opposed
gunung
to
untuk
against
mengambil
me?
keputusan
And so I
apapun.
did. I've got this habit where I've been walking an hour and a half a day for the last 7 years, and I've got this passion for being in the outdoors. And so that year, I didn't actually set the New Year's resolution to lose 25 pounds. I set a resolution to hike all 33 trails in the front country of
Kalau Anda tidak mengambil keputusan yang tepat pada saat di atas sofa, Anda tidak akan pernah sampai ke puncak gunung untuk mengambil keputusan yang ada atau keputusan apapun.
Santa Barbara's mountains. And I'd never been on a hike before in my life. But the truth of the matter is, it's not about the 33 trails. You have to break this big, ambitious goal down into these more manageable decisions, the types of decisions that need to be made correctly along the way in order to improve the odds of achieving the type of outcome you desire. It's not about even one trail. It's about those tiny little decisions, like when you're sitting at your desk, putting in just a little extra time at the end of a day, or you're lying on your couch and you're clicking through the channels on your remote control or scrolling through your Facebook feed. And in that moment, you make the decision to put it down. You go put on your hiking clothes. You go walk outside your front door and you shut it behind you. You walk to your car, you get in your car and you drive to the trailhead. You get out of the car at the trailhead and you take one step. You take 2 steps, 3 steps. Every one of those steps that I've just described is a tiny little decision that needs to be made correctly along the way in order to achieve the ultimate outcome. Now, when I say I want to hike 33 trails in the front country, people think about the decisions at the top of the mountain. That's not what it's about. Because if you don't make the right decision when you're on the couch, there is no decision that occurs.
Dari sana berkembanglah menjadi 10, 30, sampai 50 buku. Di tahun 2012, ambisi saya semakin menggila. Membuat 24 resolusi tahun baru. 12 di antaranya adalah resolusi memberi, aksi sosial tanpa keluar uang sepeser pun. Tapi perjalanannya penuh kegagalan. Saya mau donor darah ditolak karena pernah tinggal di Inggris. Mau donor sperma ditolak karena terlalu tua. Mau menyumbangkan rambut ternyata tidak ada yang mau karena rambut saya sudah beruban.
The top of the mountain. So by the end of the year, I had hiked all 33 trails in the front country. I did them a couple of times each. I even did a few in the back country. I lost the 25 pounds and I capped the year off by doing the hardest half marathon in the world, the Pier to Peak. In 2009, I got really ambitious. Ambitious for a guy who still to this day cannot settle down and focus on anything for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and that was to read 50 books. But again, it's not about reading 50 books. It's not even
Istri saya menyarankan belajar merajut. Audiens tertawa. Jujur saya tidak tertarik, tapi suatu hari saat saya duduk di bawah pohon
About
eukaliptus
reading one
setinggi
book.
12 meter
It's not about
di
reading a
Teluk
chapter,
Pendakian
a
Coldstream,
paragraph,
saya terpikir,
a sentence.
kalau pohon itu pasti
It's about
keren ya,
that
kalau
decision when
misalnya
you're sitting
dibungkus
at your
oleh
desk
lautan.
at the end of the day, or when you're lying on the couch, or flicking through your Facebook feed, and you put down the phone. You pick up a book and you read one word. If you read one word, you'll read 2 words,
Saya terpikir,
3 words. You'll read a sentence, a
dan
paragraph, a
saat
page, a
saya
chapter, a
sampai
book.
rumah, saya langsung
You'll read 10
cari nih
books,
di Google.
30 books,
Ternyata
50
gerakan itu
books.
betulan ada, namanya
In
yarn
2012,
bombing,
I got really
membungkus
ambitious.
fasilitas publik
I
dengan
set
kain baju.
24 New Year's
Dan
resolutions.
Hari Yarn Bombing Internasional,
12 of them were what I call giving resolutions, where I did 12 charitable things that didn't involve writing a check. But it's not without its failures. I tried to donate blood and they rejected me because I'd lived in the UK. I tried to donate my sperm, they rejected me because I was too old. I tried to donate my hair and it turns out nobody wants gray hair. So here I was trying to do something to make myself feel good, and it was having the opposite effect. So anyway, I've also had these 12 learning resolutions to learn 12 new skills. And when I was done with unicycling, parkour, slacklining, jumping stilts, and drumming, my wife suggested I learn how to knit. And I'll be honest, I wasn't all that passionate about knitting. But one day I'm sitting under this 40-foot tall eucalyptus tree that's 2.6 miles up the Cold Spring Trail in Santa Barbara, and I'm thinking, that tree would look really cool if it were covered in yarn. And so I went home and I Googled this, and it turns out this is a thing people do. It's called yarn bombing. You wrap these public structures with yarn. And the second annual International Yarn Bombing Day was just 82 days away. So for the next 82 days, no matter where I was, if I was in a board meeting, on the trading floor, in an airplane, or in the hospital, I was knitting, one stitch at a time. And 82 days later, I had done my first ever yarn bomb. And the response to it blew me away. So I kept going with bigger, more ambitious projects that required more engineering skills. And in 2014, I set the goal to wrap 6 massive boulders in Los Padres National Forest at the top of the mountains. But if I was going to pull this off, I'd need help. So at this point, I had a few thousand followers on social media as the Yarn Bomber. And I started getting packages. Lots of packages. 388 contributors from 36 countries in all 50 states. In the end, I didn't wrap one massive boulder, I wrapped 18. So I kept going with bigger, more ambitious projects that would require me to work with new materials like fiberglass and wood and metals, which culminates in a project that is currently at TMC here in Tucson, where I wrap the Children's Hospital. Along the way, I stopped knitting. I never really liked it. But I like crocheting. So I started making these 7-inch granny squares, because that's the standard granny square. And I thought along the way, why am I stopping at 7 inches? I need big stuff. So I started making bigger granny squares. And one day I come home from a business trip and I've got this really large granny. And I went to the website of Guinness. I was curious, what's the world's largest granny square? And it turns out there's no category for it. So I applied. And they rejected me. So I appealed. And they rejected me. I appealed again, and they said, fine. If you make it 10 meters by 10 meters, we'll create a new category, and you will be a Guinness World Record holder. So for the next 2 years, 7 months, 17 days, 1 stitch at a time, I finally reached more than 500,000 stitches, incorporated more than 30 miles of yarn, and I am now the official Guinness World Record holder for the largest crocheted granny square. Along the way,
terbesar
I've
di
garnered an
dunia.
awful lot of
Ternyata
attention for my
kategorinya belum
escapades.
ada.
I've been featured in Newsweek magazine, Art News, which is kind of the Bible for artists. But what I want you to realize when you hear these things, I'm still that C- student. I'm still that kid who can't settle down or focus for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And I remain a guy who possesses no special gift of talent or skill.
Saya ajukan,
All I do
tapi
is take
ditolak.
really big,
Saya ajukan
ambitious
banding,
projects that
ditolak
people seem to
lagi.
marvel at,
Di banding
break them
ketiga,
down to
mereka
their
bilang,
simplest form,
"Oke,
and then just
kalau
make
kamu
marginal
bisa
improvements
membuat
along the
ukuran
way to
10 kali
improve
10
my odds of
meter,
achieving
kami
them."
buatkan kategori
And so the
baru
whole
dan
reason
Anda
I'm
menjadi
giving this
pemegang
talk is
rekor
I'm
dunia.
hoping to inspire several of you to pull some of those ambitious dreams that you have for yourself off the bookshelf and start pursuing them by making that marginal adjustment to your routine. Thank you.
Selama 2 tahun, 17 hari berikutnya, tusukan demi tusukan saya membuat lebih dari 500.000 tusukan, menghabiskan 48 kilometer benang, dan sekarang resmi menjadi pemegang rekor dunia Guinness World Record untuk rajutan kotak terbesar di dunia. Kisah saya dimuat Lewat aksi ini, saya mendapat banyak sorotan. Kisah saya dimuat di majalah Newsweek hingga Juta Box, kitab sucinya para seniman. Tapi saya ingin Anda sadari adalah saya tetap masih anak yang dengan nilai C, bahkan C minus dulu. Saya tetap anak yang tidak bisa tenang atau tidak bisa fokus lebih dari 10 menit. Saya juga pria biasa, tanpa bakat atau keahlian khusus. Yang saya lakukan hanyalah mengambil proyek besar yang tampaknya seperti mustahil, memecahkannya menjadi bentuk yang paling sederhana, lalu melakukannya perbaikan kecil di sepanjang prosesnya untuk meningkatkan peluang yang sukses. Alasan utama saya menyampaikan pidato ini adalah untuk menginspirasi Anda agar tetap mengambil kembali impian besar Anda yang terlanjur disimpan di rak buku, lalu mulai mengejarnya lewat penyesuaian kecil pada rutinitas Anda. Terima kasih. Okay. Okay, that's all from me, from my project one, from video number 1 and number 5. Kurang lebih saya mohon maaf. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.